everyone. Welcome to the AHA Early Career blog. I'm Zain Ul Abideen Asad here with another blog. Today, I have a very special guest, my research mentor, Dr. Stavros Stavrakis. He is an associate professor of medicine and director of cardiovascular research at University of Oklahoma. Dr. Stavrakis is a very busy electrophysiologist, and at the same time, he has an impressive track record and accomplishments in research. So he is a physician scientist, and I have invited him to share his experiences, lessons learned, and give advice to early career folks who wish to follow his footsteps. The most important aspect for me for this interview is to seek inspiration from his career trajectory. Welcome, Dr. Stavrakis.
Thank you, Zain. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for inviting me here to share my experience. I have to say this is a wonderful journey. And that's how I would look at my career and everyone's career. It's a journey. It's not a one-time process.
Okay, so you have this remarkable success story of getting multiple research grants right from the start of your career, and more recently getting what we physician scientists think as the ultimate prize, an NIH R01 grant award. Now, I feel that myself and most early careers, we tend to focus more on the outcomes, just looking at the success, and at times have this tendency to not pay that much attention to the effort or the journey it took to get you where you are now. So what I really want to know is how much effort and struggle is behind this. Give us an insight into your journey, how you got interested in this path, and what was your path to get to where you are now?
Yeah, as you alluded to, what you see is just the tip of the iceberg. It requires a lot of effort to get any grant, let alone an R1. So I got interested in research early on in my career when I was in medical school. That was because I had excellent mentors who I looked up as role models. And so while I was in medical school at the University of Athens, I was fortunate to be part of a research team of Professor John Nanas, who was my PhD advisor. And then at the University of Oklahoma, I was very fortunate to meet Dr. Raf Lazara, who was my initial mentor and inspired me to do cardiac electrophysiology and get into autonomics research. Of course, it's not as easy as it sounds. I spent a lot of post-call days and weekends doing animal experiments, writing grants. I often joke that my most productive time is at 5 a.m. And that is true. And so you have to take the extra mile to get here. You cannot just do it during regular 8 to 5 working hours. If anybody knows how to do that, I'd be really interested, but I don't think that can happen. It requires a lot of resilience and perseverance to accomplish this goal. As you mentioned, I applied for grants very early on, even when I was a fellow. When I was finishing my fellowship, I applied for my first grant. And the second day of my faculty appointment, I got my first grant. It was a pilot grant, but it was still a 2-year grant that got me through. And then I got a AHA grant. Then I got into NIH. I had an R21, and most recently, as you mentioned, I got my R1. So it requires a lot of effort and perseverance.
Okay, thank you for sharing all of that with us. Now, what advice would you give, like if you had to look back and analyze the things that you did that worked well for you, and at the same time, things you would look back and do a little bit different? So in light of all of that, what advice would you give to earlier career cardiologists who are actively writing grants? Like, what is the secret sauce to getting the NIH funding? What are the things we can do to improve our chances?
So, the best ingredients for this sauce is one, a great idea, a brilliant idea, and a good mentor to help you shape this idea into a grant and also provide you with the necessary resources, which you probably won't have at the early stages of your career. Then you need a good environment where you can exchange research ideas with other people and collaborate with others with similar interests. This is very important. In this day and age, collaborations are key. So clinicians who collaborate with basic scientists, if they're doing, if anybody is doing translational research, or with data scientists, epidemiologists, for those that do population science, is the key for success. And collaboration is with either basic scientists or epidemiologists, data scientists, is a win-win situation, because each person brings a unique expertise that amplifies each other's experience, so that the result is not just additive, but it's way more. So collaborations are very important, in a research environment that can promote these collaborations is key to succeeding. And last but not least, you need strong institutional support. So the chair of your department has to be very supportive of your efforts. Otherwise, you'll not be able to pursue your goals. Now, that being said, if you have a small pilot grant, maybe an internal grant, or even a foundation grant, AHA grant, when you begin your faculty appointment, you have already proven yourself, and you are entitled to this precious protected time that you need to succeed. So the more you bring in terms of grants, the more protected time you will be given, and that would tends to amplify your chances of succeeding in getting NIH funding.
So I love the insights you shared. I think as someone who's really early in his career, I would like to add one more thing. The environment, not only from its mentorship and support role, is important. I think just the inspiration and motivation aspects of the environment you are in, like if you have mid-careers or senior people who are actively getting more and more grants, then that's a huge source of inspiration for early career people. That's something to look up to and something to live up to. So, that basically raises the bar. So that's something I really love about, our section, and having you here has been like a tremendous support for me as well. So
absolutely, I could not agree more with that. As I mentioned earlier, you need a mentor to look up to, and a good mentor serves as a role model. That's what you want to be.
So as you know, the healthcare landscape is changing very rapidly, especially for academic medicine. It's a challenging and tough environment for physician scientists, and I feel that physician scientists are probably most vulnerable to this changing landscape, where you have to maintain a very fine balance. You have to make sure your clinical skills are sharp. At the same time, you have to be a successful researcher. And with these growing institutional pressures for, clinical productivity, accountability in terms of work RVU productions, the fact that even if you are the rare person who does get early career pilot grants, as you know, most of these grants don't provide salary support. So in terms of institutional resources, you often have to stand in a long line of senior investigators for shared resources and institutional support in terms of lab space, research personnel. On the other hand, if you look at the other side, pure clinical careers are hugely incentivized in terms of salaries. So it may be that, grass always seems greener on the other side, or it may be that this is really tough times for physician scientists. So what I would like to ask you is, how would you motivate somebody in this environment who's just starting their career, and persuade them to follow this physician scientist career? Is that something that can be externally, you can motivate somebody to do that, or it has to be an intrinsic motivation, or it's a combination of both? How do you see this?
Now, first of all, I would say that physician scientists have the best of both worlds. And because they have the clinical experience from where they can add, they can get the clinically important questions to ask, and then they are scientists, so they can answer these questions in their labs or with their clinical trials, etc. So, and they also have unique experiences and perspectives. But as you correctly mentioned, it's very difficult to be a clinician scientist. So it's not for everybody. It's for those that are able to do it. I think motivation is something that is inherent to each person. You cannot just get somebody and tell them this is what you can do. You cannot force somebody to be a physician scientist. They have to have it in themselves. Now, if you want to be a clinician scientist, or if you're doing it to promote yourself or for a different reason, you will not reach far because it needs a lot of effort. And if you don't have that drive, you won't be able to do it. Now, if you're pursuing this career track because that is your passion, because you want to find answer to clinical problems, then you are likely to succeed. So the mantra is, if you love something, if you're passionate about something, you do it well. So my advice to early careers is to do what you love, what you're passionate about, whether it is clinical or whether it is research, and find the right environment. As we alluded to earlier, you cannot be excited in a silo. You cannot be excited just by yourself. You need the right environment, and you need to share your excitement with other people, like your mentor, your research team, your collaborators, and your passion actually gets, or your excitement gets even bigger when you discuss like an exciting idea with somebody and amplify it and shape it in a way that it becomes a real project and actually gets funded.
No, I absolutely agree that, this excitement about new and fascinating research ideas, I have found that to be very contagious. In the right environment, it has the capability to, infect everyone around it and, create good collaborations and good research teams. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us and, share your journey of success. Are there any final words you would want to say to our audience?
I would say what my mentor, Ralph Lazera, told me at some point: follow your nose and you will succeed.
All right. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. Bye-bye.
You're welcome.